So around 2021, I was searching around on the internet looking at internet stuff when all of a sudden I found this character made by someone from DeviantArt, and I actually have my own DeviantArt page, so that's even worse. And it was a wolf dressed up as Superman, and his name, Peter Hartford, is Superwolf, or the Wolf of Steel. Now, what did I do? Since I'm a huge fan of both superheroes and animals, I stared at the picture for a year, of course. I fell in love with the character pretty much immediately. The sheer determined and proud look on his face, the beautiful design of the line work, the gorgeous shading, everything was awesome about this character, and it combined two of my biggest loves. In 2021, I got the idea, hey, I'm looking for a Halloween costume. I just finished my last one, and now I need to work on the one for next year. So, why don't I just use this wolf that I found online? Now, I decided that I was going to message the person who made Superwolf, and in this case, it was another artist on DeviantArt, and his name is RaynalJacquemin. I hope I'm pronouncing that right because I'm not sure. However, there was one little issue with that. He lives all the way in France, and I live in America, so it was going to take a while for him to get back to me, which it did. It took around 4.5 months for him to respond. And so I said, hey, is it okay if I make a Halloween costume out of this? And in January of 2022, he finally responded, says, sure, go ahead. So, I got to work. The head was by far the hardest thing that I had to make, but everything else, the suit, the cape, everything I could just find online, which I did. Making the head, as you see here, was pretty straightforward. It started out with just a couple of strips of foam that I had laying around from my last costume, and I basically just hot glued and duct taped them together. Now I know that there's a more professional way to do this, but I'm not a professional costume maker by any means whatsoever, so so if you ever do want to make a costume, don't use me as a basis. Kind of use me as like, okay, try to avoid those problems. So, the head itself was actually one of the harder things to make because I've never exactly made a head that looks like a wolf before. However, I've had experience on my last two costumes, which include Foxy and this other one that I can't reveal just yet. I have some experience, so I might as well use that. So I made the basic framework of what Peter's head is supposed to look like, and I made his smile. I duct taped the bottom jaw to his upper jaw because I wanted to make sure that they were flush with each other, and also because I wanted to make sure that there was a movable jaw. I mean, think about it. Superwolf is much more intelligent than any other wolf out there in the wild. At least that's what it sounds like to me. And so I decided, hey, this costume is gonna have a moving jaw. So that was a bit of a problem. Let's just say I was trying to do my best to make sure that I matched the character because I wanted to make the artist proud. After testing out a couple of different eye designs, I checked out Kazplay, which is a YouTube channel that deals a lot in cosplay. I ordered some special materials that would make up the eyes. This is known as solar window screen. It blocks out around 70 to 90% of sunlight that comes into it, and I would use that for both the eyes and the mouth. So, after I got the eyes all fitted in, I painted them to the best of my ability. I mean, like I said, I'm not a professional, but I do have experience with painting as well as other cosplays. And then comes the hard part, the weight. Now, you may see right here that it looks pretty alright so far. Well, while this was happening, I had to find a Superman outfit, and I had to find a way to make myself look buff at the same time. As you've probably seen on my videos, I'm not exactly muscular by any means, so how am I supposed to look buff when I'm not myself? No, so what I decided to do was basically go the short route, and I bought this padding online that was basically just a giant onesie, and as you can see, it's awesome. I love the padding so much. For years, I've been trying to exercise and build myself up, but like my grandpa told me, it's not about having the biggest muscles, it's about exercising to a point where you're comfortable living life, and I took that into consideration. So while I'm not muscular by any means whatsoever, at least I can wear this Superwolf outfit and I can feel like I'm muscular. So, the padding came in, and so did the Superman outfit with the cape. And I tested them out, and my goodness, the padding and the Superman outfit on top made it work so well. And the cape, oh my goodness, you should see this thing in the wind. Anyway, so remember how I said that this thing I wanted to have a moving jaw? Well, the only problem is that costumes like this are considered fursuits, and in this case, foam heads usually don't have moving jaws because it's not strong enough to support an actual bolt and hinge. So that's why you would want to go with a harder material like resin or maybe a 3D printed head. If you want to check that out, then go ahead and check out this one YouTube channel called Pocari Roo. She did a video on different types of suits as well as the different kinds of heads and materials that they use. Well, what I decided to do was use one of those dinosaur masks that I used for a previous costume that I can't mention. And what I did is I took it to my friend Andrew, who is a very smart guy. He's a genius, and he lives right across the street from me. And so what we did is we basically found that the hinge itself could be salvaged. So what we did is he took his handheld rotary tool and basically cut off the top half of an entire mask. Basically all that was left was just the bottom jaw and the hinge, which I hot glued into place inside the head. I do intend on securing it better because I know that at some point it's probably not gonna work anymore. So these are updates I have yet to actually do. So in the process of getting the head put together with that hinge, I remembered how there were still teeth left over from the mask itself, and I had those saved up. So I talked to Andrew and I said, could you split these teeth apart because I feel like I can use these? And so he split the teeth apart, and oh my gosh, when I took those teeth and I hot glued them inside the foam support structure of the mask around his mouth, and oh my gosh, the teeth look so good. They look like actual wolf teeth, when in reality they're from dinosaurs. So, well, I mean, dinosaurs are technically the distant ancestors of wolves, so whatever. So now that the teeth were in and the basic structure of the head was finished, now came the finer details. So, as I've done before on a previous costume, the mouth needs to be sealed on both the top, back, and bottom in order to allow for proper air clearance, because I've learned from experience that the head is often the one place in the costume where you can get proper airflow, and so you don't turn into a personal sauna. So, using my sewing skills, I very badly stitched together some leftover canvas mesh that I had laying around from a previous costume, and I basically formed Peter's head, and I basically formed the inside of his mouth. And what I did is at the very back of his mouth, around where his tongue comes from, is a hole so that I can stick a straw into my mouth and I can drink stuff through my mouth without having to take the head off, which I've never had to do before, but I've done it before, but I've practiced and it works. So now that all of that was done, now comes one of the hardest things that I had to do. The fur. I've never furred a head before, so this was completely new territory for me. But thankfully it worked somehow, and I didn't have a pattern. I'm sorry, professional fursuit makers, I didn't have enough time. Okay, I say that, but I got the head done in like August. I was 2 months early. Just forget about that. Let's just keep going forward. So the hair went on, and these pictures make it look like Peter's got a beard. I don't know why, but it's really funny to me. So one of the things that I came up with early on in the design concept for this cosplay is that the head was going to have ventilation holes. Well, where am I supposed to put the vents? So I looked at Peter's head in the picture and I noticed that his ears are nice and big, so that's where the vents are gonna go. So what I did is I left a small little hole at the top of the head where the ears are. Now I learned about this in science class, by the way. Cold air goes down and hot air rises. So in this case, the mouth and eyes are where cold air enters the head and it pushes the hot air up out of the head and it keeps me nice and cool. And I've practiced with this before, but it's not as effective as I wanted it, but at least I'm not burning up and turning into a personal sauna. So the head was almost done, and I noticed that Peter's hands are white because he's a wolf, and I noticed that his hands are strangely human-shaped. That's the artist's design, it's not mine. So what I did is I took a couple of my leftover t-shirts laying around, and I basically cut them into the shape of hands, and I made my own pair of gloves. Okay, they're really bad, and by the time this video comes out, I already made a new pair of gloves, so they were short-lived. But anyway, I noticed that Peter was rather clean-shaven on the front half of his head, and I didn't have any shaving tools laying around, so what I did is I took him down to my local hairdresser, and for 20 bucks, I had him shaved. She said that it was really hard to get him shaved because her tools weren't able to cut into the hair as easily as they normally would. Next time I should probably take him to the next time I make a costume like this, I should probably take him to a dog grooming place or something because they have better tools for this. So, once the head was finished, and once the gloves were semi-finished, I put the whole thing together, and oh my gosh, was this amazing! I was finally a character that I had only seen through a screen, and now he was living, and he was in the full! However, when I took him out for his first ever public outing during Halloween of 2022, everyone thought that he was a rabbit. I don't know why, but everyone said it must have been the ears. But I did get a lot of positive feedback. People said that the costume was amazing, and there was one guy who looked at me in my buff self and said, "There's no way you're wearing a suit. You have to be that buff." And so I flexed for him. So anyway, the ears were just bugging me so much. So what I decided to do was do some costume surgery. And basically, I forcefully ripped them off, and I basically remade them. They have more of a skeleton this time around, so that the hair actually follows the skeleton like ours does. And once the ears were back on, this was the end result. My Superwolf cosplay was finally done, and so for the next couple of minutes, here are the pictures that I took of Superwolf during his first public debut. Now keep in mind these pictures are before all the updates I made to him, so just keep that in mind. But here is my Superwolf cosplay. So yeah, that's my Superwolf cosplay. I finally get to be this character that I've been staring at through the screen the whole time that I've known him, and I really hope that I did the artist proud. And if you want to check out the artist, then go ahead and look in the description. Like, did I actually do a good job? Does he look like the character? Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later. Bye!